Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. This team, what a way to come back and get back into the win column after just a disastrous game against the Boston Celtics. Let's fucking go, Darius Garland. It was not the greatest game for our guy DG the PG, but what a hell of a way to end that game. Walk off win. DG goes down the court, hits that three, walks off the fucking court into the locker room. Let's fucking go. Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast powered by Mellow Seltzer. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight our Cleveland Cavaliers took on the Detroit Pistons for the third time this season and emerged victorious for the third straight time over former head coach JB Bickerstaff and Cade Cunningham and company. This was a struggle tonight. We saw that. It took a DG game winner, right? This game was very likely heading to overtime prior to that occurring, but it was a struggle. It was a rough one on the second leg of a back-to-back. It got scary for a moment. I know we all can see that. Cleveland allowed Detroit to tie the game after fouling Cade Cunningham from beyond the arc on back-to-back possessions, trying to get that foul before he was able to get into a shooting motion. Jarrett Allen got ejected in the final final couple minutes of the game. It was just ridiculous that the game got to that point in the first place. But as we often say, you got to take your opponent seriously. And this is not the same old Detroit Pistons of yesteryear. This is a very formidable team. They entered tonight at 25-25 and been playing some of the best basketball of their careers over there in Detroit under JB. And the veteran acquisitions, the elevation of players like Cade Cunningham, that all plays a part. But Detroit is not the same team that teams are used to bullying year in and year out. They are on the way up. This had some really, really good stuff in this game. So it wasn't perfect, but we got to see a lot. We got Evan Mobley, some hot shooting from him, returning to form, 30-point game or 30-plus point game, his third of the season. And it was the ninth time this year where Evan Mobley has knocked down at least 3 triples. The Cavaliers are a perfect 9-0 now when he does that. And all of those have come this year. The spacing from him has come such a long way since he entered the league. And Kitty Atkinson is probably at the hell of that. And Mobley would finish with a near triple-double, 30 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 10 of 16 from the field, including 3 of 5 from three-point range, 4 blocks. This dude just blocks everything in sight. And you know what? It's a hell of a return to form for him after he shot just 3 of 14 and got a measly 7 points against the Boston Celtics. He literally had 4 times as many points as he had against Boston tonight, finished with 30. Then there was Craig Porter Jr. Craig knocked down 3 triples for the second time this season and just the third time in his career. It was also just his second game of the season in which he scored in double figures. The other coming in the first matchup against Boston where he finished with 15. He was phenomenal on both ends of the floor. And the thing about Craig Porter Jr. is this, right? This team is absolutely stacked at the guard position. You have Darius Garland, who's going to the All-Star game. You have Donovan Mitchell, who's going to the All-Star game. You have Ty Jerome, who looks like a goddamn All-Star off the bench at times. Looks like a 6-man-a-year candidate. You have a lot of mouths to feed. Caris LeVert is one of those guys where you're just like, oh, man. He can do some things, but we'll talk about Caris here in a minute because it was not a good game at all. And you know what? This could very well be the last time we see Caris LeVert in wine and gold, and what a lasting image it could be if this ends up being true. Now, I have no idea. I have no sources, nothing like that. I'm not reporting anything. I'm just saying if this is the last time we see Caris LeVert in wine and gold, it did not leave a good taste in my mouth. So I was just spending the whole game wondering, does Caris know something that we don't? Does Caris know something that we don't? Because he played so terribly tonight. And usually when Caris is out there, you'll see the emotions, you'll see the effort being high. It just looked like emotionless basketball. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it looks like emotionless basketball from Caris, right? 0 points, 2 rebounds, 0 of 8 from the field, 0 of 3 from three-point range, was a -5 in his 21 minutes of action. Again, I say this. I do not know whether or not he is going to be moved. I speculate that he is. I speculate that this is a guy who you're going to have to capitalize off of his expiring contract. You have to get below that luxury tax line, any number of things, whether you're going after Cam Johnson, DeAndre Hunter, or you're making some sort of small move. I just think that this might have been the last game that we see him. I could be totally wrong on that. But as we all know, the NBA trade deadline is tomorrow. And there is still a huge possibility that Caris is moved. And you know what? If this is the last time we see him, I just got to say, thank you for everything that you have done in the wine and gold. You've given us some fun moments. But tonight was a bad final image of him if that becomes the case. But although Caris struggled, we got some really good performances from others, right? Darius Garland was not a perfect game from him. As I mentioned, that game winner was fucking amazing. Ty Jerome off the bench. Ty Jerome, another big performance from him. 13 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. Was a 5 of 7 from the field, including 3 of 3 from the charity stripe. Plus 12 off the bench. And I don't know about you guys, but anytime Ty Jerome decides that he's going to drive inside and utilize that floater, it's like it's pure. It's almost unguardable the way he is a perfectionist in that regard. He knows his angles and he knows just how to utilize the backboard to his advantage in regards to that. It is very, very hard to stop Ty Jerome whenever he is going and using that floater out there. And it's just such a dangerous weapon for him to have. And I always see defenses kind of struggle to defend that. I don't know. Perfect game from him tonight. It was really awesome to see Ty Jerome kind of pick up the slack where Caris LeVert was kind of lagging behind. Sam Merrill, I was really feeling like Sam, because entering tonight, Sam was actually 12 of 18 on his last in his last 2 games, if I'm not mistaken. 12 of 18 from 3-point range was Sam Merrill entering tonight, and he ended up knocking down 2 more tonight. So he's starting to trend upward in that regard. And I think that shot is really, really starting to get back into form. We got to see Jalen Tyson tonight. Jalen Tyson is a player. You guys know in last night's stream, I kind of went off on Kenny Atkinson because I legitimately had a grievance with him overplaying George Niang. And I get it. George Niang is really technically the only big that you have. And he's not a big, obviously. But without Dean Wade on the floor, without Isaac Okoro being able to play small ball 4, I thought last night that Jalen Tyson could have warranted some minutes, and at least we got to see him tonight. 9 minutes of action, didn't really do too much from an offensive standpoint, but he added where he could. So it was nice to see him touch the floor because I legitimately just had no idea whether or not we were going to see him based upon the way that Kenny Atkinson has structured his rotations. Jarrett Allen. That ejection. Jarrett Allen was one of the only Cavaliers last night that actually stepped up to the challenge. Now, I know from a defensive standpoint, people are probably going to have something to say about that, but he was a monster on the glass against Boston. He was out there in the painted area trying to do everything that he could. And tonight, although he finished in single digits, I thought that his presence was felt out there. 6 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 of 4 from the field. Did turn the ball over 4, but I'll tell you what, Jarrett Allen, it was maybe I'm alone in this thought process, but it was actually kind of nice to see Jarrett Allen get ejected because Jarrett Allen is somebody that I think we have routinely see just not really get all that angry. The last time I saw Jarrett Allen get angry was the Ben Simmons, Ben Simmons foul that he had. And I think that was justifiable in that certain situation. And I think tonight it was too. Right? It's nice to see Jarrett Allen get a little bit angry every now and then. As Umano_2 says down here, no more soft fro. Don't poke the fro bear, man. Jarrett Allen is not somebody you think of being this tough guy out there, but it's always the quiet ones, right? It's always the ones you think that are soft, that are capable of doing some damage. And I'll tell you this, Jarrett Allen, if he gets pissed enough, he can put you on the floor. He'll hand out a big time foul, something that gets labeled a flagrant 1 or flagrant 2, as it did tonight, and got him ejected. But you know what? I actually liked it. And if this is the version that we see from him going forward, especially in games against more able-bodied centers out there. No disrespect to anybody that Detroit had out there, whether it be Jalen Duren uh, or Beef Stew, but against guys like Alfaron Şengün, who's constantly throwing elbows against the Jonas Valanciunas of the world, just the beefy guys, the guys that can actually put their body on you and make you feel their presence in that painted area. Jarrett Allen, if he's able to step up and play that type of ball against those guys, I think that can only help. Frozen 3 CK says, I hope this is the start of a bully JA. I don't think it will be, but I think he has his moments, and that's more so what I'm trying to say. I think Jarrett Allen, an angry Jarrett Allen, can accomplish some things that a mellow Jarrett Allen may not be able to do. And even though he got ejected, I actually loved it. Max Strus, after being kind of non-existent in last night's game, made some plays out there, man. That dunk, holy shit, that dunk. I think that was the second poster that Max Strus has had against Detroit. I think he did it last year too. But that dunk, oh my gosh. I posted it on my Twitter page, but this guy, man, when he wants to, he can absolutely cock it back and jam on you. And that's exactly what we saw. He had a couple of those last year, and I knew watching his tape with Miami that he was a solid dunker, but I just didn't see the type of poster dunks that we have seen from Max Strus in wine and gold. He had an absolutely phenomenal jam tonight, and I'll tell you what, it is so nice to see that Max Strus is starting to return to last year's form. He finished tonight with 15 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 of 12 from the field, 3 of 10 from three-point range. Look, I get it. The percentages from three-point range are not always going to look great for Max, but the volume shooting that he is capable of, the floor spacing, the gravity that he generates for the starting five out there matters. And I think in the proper context, whether or not he's knocking down the shot, he's still adding value in terms of the offense. And so I'll tell you what, it was really, really good to see Max Strus go out there and, have a much better performance. Kenny Atkinson essentially went with a 9-man rotation tonight. Jalen did play 9 minutes, but it was basically a 9-man rotation with Sam Merrill, George Niang, Ty Jerome, and Craig Porter Jr. Serving essentially as your 4-man bench, your 4-man reserves. And I thought they were phenomenal. Ty and Craig combined for 29 points. Sam and Niang combined for 13 themselves. And I'll tell you this, George Niang, he was absolutely barbecue chicken last night. Barbecue chicken from a defensive standpoint. Didn't add anything offensively. And I thought he had a much better game tonight. And granted, it's Detroit. It's not Boston. But I thought he had a solid bounce back game himself. 7 points, 5 rebounds, 3 of 7 from the field, 1 of 4 from three-point range. Keep in mind, this is all coming in a game without Donovan Mitchell. That was the one big omission from tonight's starting lineup. Caris LeVert started in place of Donovan tonight. So I was really curious to see how all of that would play out. And I think we all know what's going to likely happen with Caris. But again, I'll just say this one last time. It did not leave a good taste in my mouth in regards to if this was his last performance. Not great. Not great at all. And something else that should be observed. Despite the Cavaliers winning tonight, 118-115, this was not a great game in terms of a ball handling standpoint. The Cavaliers were way, and I mean way too careless with the basketball. They turned it over 23 times tonight. That is by far the most turnovers that they have had this season. Well, maybe that's overselling it a little bit. This is still their season high. Their previous season high came against the Oklahoma City Thunder, where they turned the ball over 21 times. And tonight, they turned it over 23 times, and it led to a lot of scoring opportunities on the other end for the Detroit Pistons, who capitalized in the way of 28 points off of turnovers to Cleveland's 17 off of Detroit's 11 turnovers. it was just way too much carelessness with the ball going on out there. And basically everybody was a culprit tonight. Evan Mobley turned the ball over twice. Max Strus turned it over twice. Jarrett Allen turned it over 4 times. Darius Garland turned it over 5. Ty Jerome turned it over 4. Ty Jerome is somebody who's been very, and I mean very careful with the ball this year. He turned it over very uncharacteristically. Everybody who played tonight, and this is no exaggeration, Max, Evan, Jarrett, Caris, Darius, Ty, Sam, Niang, Jalen, and Craig. Everybody committed at least 1 turnover. And you still won. Let that sink in, because that is not something that normally happens against a for this team who is in the top 10, top 5 actually, I believe, in turnovers per game. They're around 13, 14 per game in that regard. So this is very uncharacteristic of them. And again, a lot of these, credit to the defense, obviously, but a lot of these were preventable. I'll say that. Some of it was lackadaisical passing, trying to get the ball up the court or from the sidelines, inbounds passes, things like that. Things that are probably avoidable, but the Cavaliers still managed to try and hand the game over to Detroit at times, because this had all the feelings of a game that the Cavaliers were trying their damnedest at times to hand over to Detroit. Darius Garland would not have it. Darius Garland simply would not have it and drilled that game winner. And I love it, man. I love it. It's not something that you're always going to see. You're usually never going to see a team turn the ball over 23 times and still end up winning. And I think a large portion of that was Cleveland's defense too. They held Detroit to 39.8% from the floor and just 32.4% from 3-point range. Now, did that stop some of the shooters over on Detroit's end from absolutely having their way with the perimeter defense? No. We saw Tim Hardaway Jr. in particular just absolutely scorch the twine from 3-point distance. It was like vintage Tim Hardaway Jr. out there. 6 of 11 from 3-point range, would finish the game with 20 points. Cade Cunningham basically willed his team back into it down the stretch. He was 3 of 10, but outside of Hardaway Jr. and Cunningham, nobody else was really impactful in that regard from 3-point range from beyond the arc. It just, those two, they were carrying in I do not know whether or not Detroit would have been in a position to even tie the game up at the end before that DG3 had TH Day not gone off and had Cade not been able to knock down some of those circus triples out there. But all of that being said, I suppose it's time to head into the chat here. There's a lot. I'm not going to be able to touch on everything, but I'll do my best as always. Hailstone says Garland is like that. Absolutely. It's why he's going to the fucking All-Star game. Duran 4 says DG, the GOAT, clutch king. Yeah, Garland has been very clutch this year. He's had his moments. We we're not going to talk about him. Or, I will. I'll mention it. The free throws, we all know. Bad loss that was. But by all accounts, he has been one of the clutchest players in the NBA this year. Ohio Game Talks says Garland was phenomenal at the end of that game. Was not the best game from DG tonight, but he did turn things on in the second half, which you love to see. He did that yesterday against Boston too. Nick says, let's fucking go. Indeed, brother, let's fucking go. Jay Dias says, DG in the clutch like all season. He's been phenomenal in the clutch. You love to see it. X Beat says, bro, I know, man. That's all you got to say. It was a phenomenal performance from a number of Cavaliers. Evan Mobley, in particular, Craig Porter Jr. putting on a show in relief of Donovan Mitchell and stepping up where Caris LeVert is absolutely struggling. Cleveland Cavaliers says, let's go. X Beat says, Maximo, I mean DG. Duran 4 says, now go get DeAndre Hunter and we're going to be sitting pretty. I think that's what everybody is hoping on, right? Tomorrow morning when we wake up, will we see some type of notification scroll across our phones, right, across our screens that indicates that DeAndre Hunter or Cam Johnson or somebody else that is not quite being talked about being acquired by the Cleveland Cavaliers? And the name that's at the forefront of that in terms of returns is Caris LeVert. George Niang has been, a name that's been floated around out there. But honestly, I have no idea who the Cavaliers covet in terms of who they want to keep and who they don't. All I know is that Caris LeVert is a prime candidate. Humano _2 says, Mac, please say that you're open to trading LeVert. I mean, yes, I've been saying that. I am very open to trading Caris LeVert because of the expiring contract, for one, and for two, if it gets you a true upgrade. For me, what it has always been about with trading some of these players and some of the ideas that I see floated around out there is one, is it truly enough of an upgrade to actually make that move to upset the chemistry that a lot of people hate, uh, to disrupt? To me, there are players out there that make a lot of sense for the Cavs. Cam Johnson, as we continue to mention, DeAndre Hunter, be a lovely addition. Yes, to answer your question, I am open to moving Caris LeVert, knowing the context of the situation. XBeat says, I loved how DG shut that motherfucker. Yes, he closed the door, man. He closed the door, and I think that was a big time moment for him because I think a lot of people, despite him being one of the clutchest players in the league this year, after those missed free throws, a lot of people were still saying that he's just not a clutch guy. And I don't see that. I don't see that being the case. I don't know how you could have watched him this year and not think that Darius hasn't been clutch, because he literally has the stats to back them up. Blondie 20 says, do you think Caris is gone? I absolutely believe that I'd give it about a 80% chance of Caris LeVert being moved tomorrow. Now, when I wake up tomorrow, it's going to be hard to sleep. It truly is going to be hard to sleep, but there is still the possibility that Caris LeVert remains a Cavalier. So I just want to prepare everybody for that potential thing happening. But this trade season has been really crazy. We saw that Jimmy Butler got traded to the Warriors. I mean, we've seen Luka get moved to the Lakers. We've seen Chris Middleton swapped for Kyle Kuzma. It's been a lot of crazy shit going on around this. I think Brian Windhorst was saying this was probably going to be a boring deadline, and it has been far from that. It's been the exact opposite of that, and we're not even done yet. We could very well see this Cleveland Cavaliers jump into the fray here and make some type of big time move. At the very least, I do expect a small move to move under the to move under the tax threshold, whether that be shipping out one of the other small contracts on the roster, whether that is Craig Porter Jr., hate to say that, or Tristan Thompson, Sam Merrill. There are financial moves to be made here to get under the tax line, but I can't speculate on all that because truly I don't know how the team feels. Jordan React says, oh, yeah, I heard from Chris Fedor on Twitter that the Cavs have no intention of trading George. Don't agree, but that was what was confirmed. Yeah, I mean, again, we don't really know what the Cavaliers covet in terms of who is on their list of untouchables. And I use that word very, very loosely because I don't think the Cavaliers have a whole hell of a lot of untouchables. It's probably Evan Mobley, full stop. I think that is the only player on the roster that is truly untouchable. I think everybody else could be had for the right price. Hell, I mean, you saw Luka go for Anthony Davis and company. So that tells you right there that anybody, and I know the unique unique context of that trade has not fully been expressed yet. I know we've heard a lot of different parties speak on it, including AD and Luka himself, but truth be told, that was a very, very unique trade. Just such a trade that you're not likely to see occur ever again. I don't know. There's a first time for everything, I guess, but we'll have to see. Blondie 20 says, oh, wow, that kind of makes me sad, but I know it's for the best. It makes me sad, too. I've grown to be a very, very big fan of Caris LeVert, and, he has Ohio ties. He's an Ohio guy. But at the end of the day, I remain a Cleveland Cavaliers fan over everything else out there. I've developed a really big soft spot for every one of these guys. I don't want to see any of them being traded, but if it makes the team better, who am I to argue with that? And with Caris, we know what the situation is. The Cavaliers, they have a lot of decisions from a financial aspect to try and work around. They have to figure out whether or not they are going to move below that tax line. They have to figure out whether or not Caris LeVert to use his expiring contract or not. There are just a lot of different question marks in regards to him. So I can certainly understand why they would be on the fence about it. But I think all signs kind of point to him being moved. Milkman Joe says the LeVert wheel has unfortunately landed on Sub-Zero 2 nights in a row. Yeah, it is very, very difficult to feel good about Caris LeVert's prospects in Cleveland when he's had back-to-back duds. And I know the wrist injury is probably still playing a part at some capacity, but he just looked like he was emotionless out there tonight. Jordan React says back-to-back three-point game winners on Pistons by all-star guards. One at Trae Young yesterday and now Darius. That's got to hurt. And again, Detroit, they're playing some really good basketball this season. They are not the same old Detroit Pistons of yesteryear. They are actually playing really good basketball under JB. Hailstone says, watching this game winner back, and man, that was so tough. Darius Garland absolutely deserves his flowers for the season that he has had. And this is just another, cherry on top of a season that has been such a bounce back year for him. When a lot of people, frankly, gave up on him, wanted him to be traded, wanted him to be moved for pennies on the dollar because they simply felt that Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell did not mix, and they thought Darius Garland just didn't have it. Little did they know, he had one of the best comeback seasons in store for them. And hopefully he has made everybody a fan. And deservedly so, has been named to the All-Star game. And moments like tonight show you just exactly why. After having sort of a rough game, he bounced back at the end and carried them to victory. Jordan Yak says, Ty progression makes it hard to defend Caris. And even Ty Jerome, right? Ty is not a lock to return to the Cavaliers, which probably plays a role in this whole LeVert thing too. It's tough. If you're the Cavaliers, you're like, okay, we have two players here that we know are pretty capable, although Caris has had some struggles lately, and that's putting it not mildly. These are two guys who we don't necessarily know are going to be locks to return to the Cavaliers next season. The Cavaliers are not flush with cap space. They can't offer Ty more money than he'll likely be offered on the open market. And there will be some team out there that says, you know what? We can outbid you for Ty Jerome. It's going to be completely up to Ty on what he will accept. Now, my heart says that Ty Jerome would probably take a little bit of a discount to remain in Cleveland and contend for at least a year or two, maybe accept some type of smaller contract. But as we all know, there is a business side of basketball, and we have seen that play out time and time again. And it could play out again with Ty. So we'll have to be crossing our fingers in regards to that. And I'm sure that in of itself plays a role in this whole Caris LeVert situation, because just like Ty, Caris is somebody that we know the Cavaliers have depended upon at times. It has looked like a 6 man of the year candidate at times, as much as people want to shit on him. He did start the season off very, very well, had a very good season last year, and he has, over the past couple of years, actually been one of the fairly dependable options in the playoffs. So I can't take everything away from him. So there is a lot of things to weigh here. There truly is. Hailstone says, I want Ty to stay so bad. Blondie20 says, Caris can be a lesser version of SGA when he wants to be. He's just so inconsistent and is already 30, injury prone. It all plays a role. It's all relative. So I certainly agree. Momo says, I wouldn't hold it against anyone for trying to get a few more million. Neither would I. These people, at the end of the day, this is their job. This is their livelihood. They have families to feed. So if Ty Jerome says, you know what, this is probably going to be the one time in my career where I can truly set the price and have teams name it. And at 27 years of age, I don't know if people realize that, Ty Jerome is not a young dude anymore. He is getting ready to enter his athletic prime. He is 27 years old. This might be his one true big payday opportunity. We know how crazy things can be from year to year. And for me, it's like, okay, I want Ty to stay, but I also would totally understand if Ty's like, you know what, I'm going to take the biggest contract I can get on the market. But time will tell in that regard. Jordan React says, OKC losing PJs. Please continue. Please losing to Phoenix. Okay, I see. Thank you for clarifying that. Please continue. I was wondering what you meant by that, but yes. OKC entering tonight had a leg up on Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken, in the overall standings of the league. They entered tonight 39-9 on a 2-game win streak to Cleveland's 40-10 prior to tonight. And now the Cavaliers have gone to 41-10. And if they lose, I think the Cavaliers take that number one spot all over again. And that, my friends, is what we want. As going down the stretch of the season, it's not going to be any easier. The schedule is not going to lighten up too much. And Cleveland, with all the injuries that they've had to navigate and deal with, we need to try and put as much separation between ourselves and other teams as possible, especially in the East. Now, Even if they don't manage to have the best overall record in the NBA, being able to have the best overall record in the East would be awesome. Kirk Davis says J.A. turned into Super Saiyan 1 on that bully play. He did. It's rare that you see Jarrett Allen go to that length, to that extent. He must have really been pissed off. Haven't looked at the post-game speeches or anything, post-game conversations, gotten any quotes or anything like that because I'm in here with you guys. But I'm certainly keen on hearing what they have to say and why Jarrett Allen ended up doing what he did. But I liked it. The ejection is not something you're going to see from Jarrett Allen often. So it was pretty cool to me. I think that's probably a good stopping point for tonight. It was an awesome game at times. At other times, it wasn't so awesome. Again, way too many turnovers. Cavaliers, they definitely had this game had the feel of a game that they were trying to just give away. And I'll tell you what, DG would not let it happen, and I am thankful for that being the case. Now, the Cavaliers will return to action against the Washington Wizards on Friday. They will be in my neck of the woods here, and that should be a that should be a fun one. I think I'm going to try to go to that one, but they will be back in action on Friday. As I always tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out, you know, I can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you want to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot, send a review to It's Cavalier53 at gmail.com, and I will send you said invite. If you are watching over on X, do your boy a favor. Go to YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe if you're not yet a subscriber, and hit that notification bell so you always know when I'm going live. Go Cavs.